Good afternoon. You're listening to Gambling with an Edge. Now here are your hosts, Bob Dancer and Richard Munchkin.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Gambling with an Edge. I'm Bob Dancer.
And I'm Richard Munchkin.
And then there were three episodes left. We're going to have today's mailbag show. Next week, we're going to talk to Michael Shackelford about his new version of Gambling 102. And then we're going to have a last mailbag show. And then, as far as we know right now, Gambling with an Edge is history. There's no plan to bring it back, and who knows what the future will bring.
Unless we get a call or an email from one of those people that we tried to get for years and years but never could, like Danny Kahneman or James Grosjean or someone like that. Well, we would make an exception and have to have another episode. But I don't foresee that happening.
Yeah, that would be good. Think who else would be... Anyway, good. So when we announced a while ago that we were closing up, a lot of you sent in final mailbag questions. And almost all of them were prefaced with, "Thank you, Bob and Richard. We appreciate what you've been doing. I've been listening to your show for however long, and it's made a big difference in my life or my enjoyment level, and thank you." And there have been a lot of these, and I'm just going, well, you're welcome. I enjoyed doing it. We're not going away mad or anything like that. It was just time to quit. But I got a lot of it too. I know a whole lot more about gambling now than I did when I started this. And I know a whole lot more people now than when I started this. So I got a lot out of it. The amount of money we got was rather trivial, but that wasn't really why we were in there doing it. And it was good. And we still got 3 shows left. Richard, you saw these notes too, huh?
Yeah, I got a lot of emails, a lot of messages on Twitter, very much the same kind of thing. The thing I find most gratifying was I got quite a few that were people saying I became a gambling advantage player because of the show. Things I heard on the show either convinced them to learn more and actually learn how to play with an edge. Some of them have been extremely successful, and that's just really gratifying to me. So, yeah, it's been a great run. I also have learned a lot from the show, and I've made some just really good friends because of the show. People I never would have met otherwise. So it's been an all-around positive.
Yeah. Good.
Oh,
let's get to our...
Well, wait,
yes,
one other
ahead.
thing we should address. I also got a lot of people saying, why don't you turn the show over to somebody else or get some other hosts, this kind of thing, which, we are open to if we could find the right person or people to do that. Most of the people that we think would be good at it either already have their own podcast or they are busy doing their own things that would preclude them from doing it. So it is a possibility, but at the moment, we don't have anybody that would fill that bill. I also, I believe I will be back doing something in some way eventually. I've been thinking a lot about YouTube shows, not the kind where I go in a casino and sit and play slots and go, oh, look how much I won. But because of my background in film, I've been thinking about that. And so I'm sure I will end up doing something eventually, but I have no idea what.
Very good. All right. First is a video poker question. After the deal and right up to the instant you press the draw button, is the random number generator zipping along through the remaining 47 cards, meaning that the timing of your button press will determine which cards you draw? Or is the order of the deck already set after you hit the initial deal button, and hit the draw button, and you're just revealing the next 1 to 5 cards that are on top of this remaining deck. My understanding is the cards are still zipping your turn while you're deciding what to play. My understanding is it doesn't matter. It's whether they're already there and unknown to you or zipping along at a high speed. Doesn't really matter. You don't know what they are until you hit the button. And there's no clues that I know of that will tell you that hitting the button now is better than hitting it a nanosecond later. Next question. I just got the Las Vegas Advisor coupon book. What is the best way to use my free play offers in my coupon book for video poker? Would you just use the free play and stop and go to the next casino? Or would you do it as long of a session as you can while still playing at an advantage? Or would it depend on whether or not you want to earn comps or status at this casino? Well, the casinos offer these coupons to get you in the door and hope you like the place and stay, and of course they hope you lose. If you have any intention of making this a place where you return, by all means stay and play. If there's no way in hell you'll play here without being bribed to do so, play the minimum, collect your bonus, and leave.
Yeah, I agree. If it's a place where you have a good game to play, then, it's just the equivalent of kind of finding a chip on the floor or something. You're there to play anyway, so might as well collect a coupon while you do it. And if not, cash it and go.
All right. I qualified for a free cruise through Win Rewards. Is it okay to just enjoy the cruise without gambling, or will it affect my theoretical at Win? Do you know anything about this, Richard?
I think it has nothing to do. I mean, I don't know about the Win in particular, but the cruises that I've been on that came from other casinos, what you do on the cruise has absolutely nothing to do with your status at the casino. So when I went on the cruise, I stiffed them. It will affect your ability, I think, to get free cruises from the cruise line. If you give them a certain amount of action, they will send you free cruises. But I don't think it has any effect on your status at Win at all.
Yeah, I basically agree with that. I have gotten cruise offers from outside casino hosts, and whether they give you another free cruise in the future depends on how much you play this time, because they have a deal with the cruise ship. But the regular casino, I don't think it matters.
And I would just say, by the way, if it's an outside cruise host, you are probably better off calling the cruise directly than going through that host. You could probably get a better deal calling the cruise line and saying, hey, I'm willing to put up this much money in front money or whatever. What'll you give me? I have this status at Caesars or wherever.
Well, then you have to play for sure.
Oh, yeah. But you're saying when you've been contacted by these outside hosts, you just took the cruise and stiffed them?
Well, there's a casino. Yeah, if they deal with getting you into a lot of different casinos, and so stiffing is
just
more
goes with the territory. Yeah.
Yeah, because they might be on the cruise ship with you, and they'll notice the stiffing, whereas the casino in general won't know. Now, if you're strictly a video poker player, as I was through most of my gambling career, it makes a lot of sense to stiff them on a cruise ship, because almost always the video poker sucks really, really badly. There can be good blackjack games. There can be good poker games. There can be other games on the casino that, if that's what you play, that the game in the casino can be almost as good as the game in the casino. But cruise ships can also bar you. They won't kick you off the ship unless you're doing a whole lot more wrong than just winning in the casino, but they can bar you from the casino. All right, next question. In general, how long should an individual video poker session last? How about if, say, let's assume you have $25 in free play? Well, there is no in general answer. You need to consider such things as how much play you need to keep the free play coming in the future. Is this a one-time deal, or do you want to have a continuing relationship with this casino? Is this some sort of promotion going on, perhaps multiple points, or earning tickets for a drawing that you think is worthwhile, or maybe play 1,000 points and qualify for such and such something? How much to play is as much of an art as it is a skill, and different players have different levels of art. I basically play a different amount at every casino, depending. And there are 8 or 10 different factors I consider, specific to what games I play, at what denomination, my tier level, comp level I hope to achieve, do they offer enough at higher tiers to interest me, etc. Even if you know that at Casino A, I typically play $10,000 coin every time I go in, or $50,000 or whatever, that may not very well be a good number for you to shoot at because your circumstances are very different. So the same kind of question is, Richard, is, like how long should an individual blackjack session last other than until you start getting too much heat?
Well, again, it really depends on the circumstances. But for a card counter, there are many modern players now who you play until you get barred. Or you don't leave because you think you have heat if you're a card counter, because eventually you are going to get barred, so just play until it happens. Now, some people just hate getting barred, find it very stressful, and don't want to do that. So, and if you're playing more advanced strategies that the casino doesn't really understand, then we make a determination of what we think the casino can stomach and kind of play up to that level. And that can change depending on the reactions of people and what's going on in the pit and things like that. But as you say, it's more art than science in that case.
All right. Next question. If you want to learn a new language to help you as an AP, which one should it be? Richard, do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, I think if you're a poker player, it should definitely be Chinese, because the biggest poker action in the world is over in Macau and China, and it would probably be advantageous to understand what people are saying. As for the other games, I don't think it matters much. Yeah, I don't think it matters much.
And I'm thinking, well, I'm not a poker player, and I'm thinking learning Mandarin might well be beyond my capabilities anyway. But there could be reasons. If I was planning on traveling through South America or Latin America, and going to be playing some games, then learning Spanish might be useful. There's enough different places there, some of which have good games, that it could be useful. Also, I took Spanish in high school, and so I have a leg up. I'm now 76. Learning a new language is just really, really, really tough. So it's probably not going to happen. But I would find out a reason to do it. If I was going to make a trip through Poland, I don't think I would take the time to learn Polish fluently before I made that trip. I don't think it would be cost effective, although there are people who might enjoy learning new languages, and there would be that. Another way to answer the question for a new language to help you as an AP, it might be a computer programming language. If you have computer programming skills and can apply that to your AP work, that will definitely help you. Now, if you have another friend who has, you can get this work done by somebody else who will give it to you or sell it to you, fine. but having access to good computer programming can definitely help you in a number of casino games.
Yeah, that's a good point. Programming languages. Yeah.
I'm a traveling low roller who pushes buttons and occasionally counts. I think that means plays slots. And occasionally counts KO preferred. By no means James Groschine. I'm interested in video poker progressives. Which game would be the best to learn, or could I buy one of each of your coming strategy cards and be ready to play anything? Think they'll bring any heat? Is it worthwhile learning video poker, or am I spreading yourself too thin? All right. I'm not sure when or even if these video poker progressive strategy cards will be available. I have several projects in the works somewhere with not much work being done on any of them currently. So I just don't know. It could be I will find the motivation and within 6 months publish 10 different progressive games, and it could be it never happens at all. I just truly don't know. Now, in Vegas, the most common progressive is 9-5 double bonus. I don't know how frequent that is elsewhere. It's going to take a lot of work to get up to speed on that game, especially since you need, they frequently are combined with, in addition to the progressive on the Royal, they have progressives on the 4 aces, 4 kicker, 4 2s, 3s, and 4s with a kicker, etc. So, learning video poker from scratch, either progressive or otherwise, is not a trivial matter. It can be worthwhile. The heyday of video poker has come and gone. There are still opportunities out there, and I'm still spending most of my gambling hours playing video poker. And there are other people who are doing it as well and doing well, but it is nowhere near as prevalent or as commonplace to find profitable video poker games as it was 5 years, 10 years, 20 years ago, etc. Next question. Richard. I'm worried about wins adding up on my card from slot play at my locals, which I've avoided counting at so as not to lose. What do y'all think about playing a break-even spread so I can rat hole and exaggerate my losses?
Well, I would concentrate more on trying to generate losses on slot machines. But, yeah, I don't think much of that plan. I think you're better off. I don't think they look at lifetime win of slot players the way they do lifetime win of table games players. And the idea could actually backfire on you, because if you were playing some low break-even spread and some, guy who used to be a hall monitor when he was in high school decides, I think this guy looks suspicious, let me look into him, and then he suddenly goes, wow, look at all this win on slot machines this guy has. Maybe he is a wise guy. So I wouldn't do that. I would just take your win, maybe find some ways to generate some losses on slots, which if you get creative, you can do that. And I wouldn't mix the two.
Okay. Next question. I want to record the latter part of my video poker sessions to evaluate my accuracy after a few hours. I plan to use an iPhone in a shirt pocket without notifying the casino. Have you ever done this or something like this? Well, I haven't. It sounds like a reasonable idea. It's time consuming, and you have to know the correct play when you watch, because you have to go back afterwards and evaluate, and there isn't a way that I know about to use that data and plug it into a computer program to give you the information. So you have to know the play, be able to recognize it, and if you don't know the right plays when you're fresh, you certainly aren't going to know them when you're tired. It's probably a better idea to use casino software, like Win Poker or Video Poker for Winners, if you still have a copy that works. The software will tell you how many errors you're making and how big those errors are. Recording over an iPhone won't give you that information. So you need the computer analysis.
Yeah, and if you want to do it when you're tired, then wait till after you've finished a session and then go home and do it right after that. So you're already a little burnt out. I mean, you've had whatever break there was, the time it took you to get home, but you're probably still a little burnt out.
Yeah. Can you recommend some books about Las Vegas that you recommend? I'm assuming you're talking about after you read Sex, Lies, and Video Poker. I was assuming that was he didn't say that in the question, but I assume that's part of it.
And Gambling
Richard,
Wizards.
Do you have any, and Gambling Wizards, yes. Did you have any, how would you answer that?
There's a lot. I mean, I love these kinds of books, so I've read a lot of them. Some of them that stick out to me and authors we've had on the show. Smoking Aces, the biography of Benny Binion. Lay the Favorite, Beth Raymer, who wrote that, was on the show at the very, very beginning, about her working for Dink, the sports bettor. I always mess up the title, and I should have looked it up ahead of time. I think it's called The Professor, the Banker, and the Suicide King, which is about Andy Beal coming to town and playing the biggest poker players. The book Casino, which the movie was based on. We've had David Schwartz on the show quite a number of times, talking about, he wrote a history of Circus and Jay Sarno, and one about the Sands. Those are some of the first ones that, one of there were some books that I was fascinated by as a teenager that were written by a guy who was a pit boss at the Dunes. And I think his name was Mike Goodwin, either Goodwin or Goodman. And, he wrote two of them, and it was just full of stories of things that happened in the casino from the perspective of a guy who was a pit boss. And I just loved those books when I was, those are the first ones that come to mind for me.
Yeah. Some for me, might include books by Michael Kaplan, who has a number of books, some of which have to do with casinos. Another one would be a lot of the books by Walter Tevis, which would include The Hustler and The Color of Money, which are gambling books, in that case about game of pool rather than Vegas in specific. But I think that would matter a lot. There are a lot of poker books that are written as like Hit Me Halabala. What was that? Where?
Something Halabala. Yeah, that was a good one. By the way, Mike Sexton's book also. I forgot the name of Mike Sexton's book, and that was really one of our best episodes, I thought. So if you might want to check out that episode in addition, but yeah, his book was really.
And Michael Connick had a number of books. One had to do a collection of short stories, including The Man with the $100,000 Breasts, and there were a lot of stories in there, short stories that had to do with gambling.
And nonfiction. We should say not short stories, not fiction stories, but nonfiction stories. They came from articles when he was the writer for Cigar Aficionado.
Yeah. And there's the book on the 21 was based on.
Bringing Down the House. Yeah, Bringing Down the House by Ben Mesrick.
Yeah, and Ben Mesrick had 3 or 4 gambling books.
Yeah, I think the other one was called Breaking Vegas, the one that was about Semyon Dukash.
Yeah, and there were there were 3 or 4 of those, and definitely look at those. And then there's the depressing books, about being busted in Vegas, or down and out in Vegas and stuff like that.
Leaving Las Vegas is the other one was the Hunter Thompson book, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which is just a drug fueled insanity, if that's your thing.
And the book The Grifters has a scene in Vegas, and that was I forgot his name, the author. He had a number of books, Jim Thompson. So he wrote a number of books about gambling and other subjects. Good. That'll get you started.
Yeah.
If you go to your library card index and type in Vegas, it will give you 200 books with that word in the title, and that might give you some more choices. Even if you stick to that genre, you're never going to run out. There's a lot of those books. All right. The next question is about Ultimate X Gold. And do the multipliers influence you to deviate from the standard single line video poker strategy? For example, in Ultimate X Gold double bonus, if I'm dealt 2 pairs such as queens and 2s with no full house multiplier and an 8x on 2s, 3s, or 4s, would I drop the queens? Have you or anyone else written a strategy for Ultimate X Gold? Okay. Without commenting on that particular hand, I do play Ultimate X Gold. I do make adjustments in the strategy. And this is a game where you get multipliers and they stay until you hit them, and they build. So like every time you get a high pair, then the multipliers for 3 of a kind and 2 pair increase. And if you get a dealt flush, well, that might increase the multipliers for flushes, straights, full houses, and maybe some 4 of a kinds. So and you keep those multipliers are keep building up. They build until they reach the max, which they stay there until they're hit. And so the base game in Ultimate X Gold is around 50%. If you have no multipliers, it's 50%. Although you cannot have no multipliers, they always give you at least 1 or 2. For like jacks or better, which is one of the simpler Ultimate X Gold, there are more than 3,000 different combinations of multipliers for one game, such as with the 2 pair with this much or that much, and 3 of a kind with this much, this much, this much, and flush with this much, the straight, etc. More than 3,000 combinations, which means there are more than 3,000 strategies for this game. So nobody is going to create a strategy for one game that has 3,000 different states it has to cover, and especially when there's 15 different games in the Ultimate X catalog. So for the most part, you're on your own. Final question from somebody. I can't remember which show this is from. You guys mentioned a guy that lives on his boat and travels the world hitting up juicy promotions such as 2-for-1 blackjack payouts. Do you know the guy that I'm talking about? Can you talk a little bit more about him? He seems like the ultimate AP, and I have no recollection of this. Do you, Richard?
Vaguely. I don't remember talking about this on the air, but I do know a guy who has a very large boat and does play promotions and things that he finds in various parts of the world. But I don't know him well, and I don't know that much about him, if it's the guy I'm thinking of. But yeah, so I really can't, I have nothing worth saying other than that.
Yeah, it seems.
I mean, obviously, he's a very wealthy guy already, so I don't think he's playing tons and tons of hours.
Yeah, traveling 1,000 miles on a boat, play a 2-for-1 blackjack promotion, just generally would not make financial sense. A promotion is never going to last long enough for you to recoup what it costs to go that far. But of course, if you like being on the water and you enjoy your travel companions, sounds like a nice life. All right, next question. If a particular video poker machine is found to be giving more aces than would be expected, can this casino do something to the machine to make it conform to the average? And the answer is no. They can change pay schedules. They can remove the machine. But the machine is just randomly dealing cards. Even with random dealing, there will be periods of time where after the fact, a machine will have had hot and cold spells. And it could be that over a relatively short period of time, there's more that you are gotten 4 aces more often than average or less often than average. But the machine itself, when other people are playing it too, does not have that. So the answer is no. Next question is Blackjack. Regarding optimal trip strategy for playing Blackjack for comps and promotion, would you avoid mixing low spread playing for comps at certain chains or properties with a large spread play until they back you off strategy at others on the same trip?
It depends on the venue, on the location, because in some places they're going to flyer you to all the other casinos in that area. So you could end up getting thrown out of your hotel room in the middle of the night. So yeah, I would not. And the danger there is if that does happen, then the place where you were staying, they know your name. And so they have all your personal information as well. So I would not do that. If you're going to go count cards, I would not stay in a casino. I would stay, in a Hilton or something and stay anonymous in the casino. Now, if you're playing just for comps, then fine. Yeah, just go and work the comp game.
A separate question, somewhat similar. Is it worth trying 4 to 6 hours of relatively square small spread play at a newly opened casino and chain to see if there are any comps or invitation-only promotions that can be exploited before throwing huge bet spreads in their face and wearing out my welcome?
Yeah, sure. There's value. There's value in that. I mean, you're not giving up much, if anything at all, and you can see what kind of mail that you get from them. Sure, but I definitely would not try to play, blackjack or a table game in the first couple of days that a casino opens. Because the casinos have learned, it used to be that card counters and other advantage players would swarm to a place when it opened. And the casinos learned that, and so they were ready and they were throwing people out left and right when a place opens. So I would not do anything that might get you, noticed or thrown out the first week. But if you go in and play with not really an edge, just to see what kind of mail you might get. But now you might have to wait a couple of months before you get the mail. So, yeah, I mean, Bob, you do this with video poker, right? So you go in and when they first open, because you don't know what games they might have, and usually they're looser when they first open.
They might be looser. They depends on who set up the games. If it's a slot director, his highest rank earlier was assistant slot director, a lot of his ideas haven't been tempered over time. And so, he's going to make a lot of mistakes. But it's also different in video poker. I'm getting a player's card and I'm giving up my ID, day one. Because in video poker, so much of the return is in the slot club and the comps and the promotion. For blackjack, the strategy generally is not to give up your ID. Now, if you're playing relatively square to see if you get comps, now they have your name and ID. After that burns out, you going back later and trying to play huge until they kick you out. Well, you're already in the system. They may able to put your current face with your face that you gave, with the name that you gave them when you got the comps, whenever it was that you did that. So the strategy of playing small at the beginning and getting comps and then planning later to go back and hit them like hell, that may not be possible in blackjack, where it's definitely possible in video poker. All right, this is time for our third to last commercial break. Richard, you get to lead us off.
If you're serious about card counting, the Blackjack Apprenticeship membership is a great way to learn, train, network, and get the resources you need to succeed. We've had quite a few guests on Gambling with an Edge who exclusively trained and got their start through Blackjack Apprenticeship. Check out the website at blackjackapprenticeship.com. They have member forums, training software, and guides to help you learn. That's blackjackapprenticeship.com, and you will find a link in the show notes.
Videopoker.com is the best place to play lots of games. If you sign up for Gold membership, $8.95 a month or $79.95 a year, this allows you to get correction on most of the games. The game of the week is Lucky Eights. This is a 10 coins per line game where you get bonuses for three or more eights, including full houses with 3 eights. If you get dealt trips or higher of any suit, any rank, about every 35 hands, you get to spin the wheel, which include amounts ranging from 188 to very, very rarely 18,888. In Deuce's Wild Variations, you spin the wheel on dealt flushes or higher, which occur every 42 hands on average. You do need to figure out the strategy for yourself, but it appears possible with simple algebra, as their hands that are affected always include eights, and there aren't that many of them.
Everyone seems to be talking about sports betting lately. If you're looking to learn more about how you can profit from the sports betting gold rush, then unabated.com is a great resource for you. Founded by frequent Gambling with an Edge guests, Captain Jack and Rufus Peabody, unabated.com has free educational articles and an odds screen to help you shop lines. If you bet props, their Essentials tier has projections and simulators you won't find elsewhere. Premium tier membership adds an array of pricing calculators, in-game tools, and the most advanced real-time odds screen available. Take a trial run with their tools to decide if unabated.com is right for you.
All right, we're back with our questions. If you're stuck on a deserted island and can only play one advantage game, what would you play and why? I had trouble with this question. If it's deserted island, do they have casinos? How deserted would it? So I decided to bring out my teenager side and make me a lot younger and with a nice companion. And my favorite advantage game is, I guess you call it hide the weenie. It has nothing to do with gambling, but it is a whole lot of fun, and it's definitely an advantage play. I would feel better. Richard, how do you deal with this question?
Yeah, I don't know. The guy you're with might not be into that game, Bob. Anyway, my first thought was, I should pick bridge because I get a deck of cards. And once you have a deck of cards, you can play lots of games. And I don't know, if I pick bridge, does that mean there's 3 other people there with me, which would also help a lot. Then I thought, well, maybe that's not allowed to, The other thing about having a deck of cards is, I could work on like magic stuff, which I've always been interested in. But if you're not allowed to use cards, it would be either chess or backgammon. I have been playing chess since I was very, very little, and still play and love the game. Or backgammon. The other thing about backgammon is you have, 30 checkers to play with that you can maybe create other games with. And both those games have variants, right? So you're not stuck with just one game with either of those things. The one thing about chess, though, is it's really hard to get better in a vacuum without any books or software. Just trying to improve on your own is really hard. Whereas in backgammon, in the old days, you could take a position and roll it out yourself, a bunch of times to try to learn things. So I guess if I'm not allowed to take cards, then I guess I would choose backgammon.
I don't know. Are we allowed to bring our computer, and do we have internet on this deserted island? Because,
if I had that, I might choose Hearthstone.
Can we get a Netflix subscription while we're there?
Yeah.
Okay, next question. I believe you've mentioned on the show that there's no certain way of knowing you're in the database other than to have someone on the other side inform you. Unfortunately, when I started counting, I was under the impression that if you played uncarded at $25 minimum tables, it would be a red flag. While I try to play with modest spread at double-deck tables similar to Brian Carlson, I've managed to get backed off under my name in about 20 places, mostly around 2006 to 2008 in Nevada, and a few in Louisiana and Mississippi. What would you say the chances are that I'm still in the database, Richard?
Well, once you're in, you're always in. I mean, it never gets deleted. So you're definitely in. And if you were playing in Las Vegas, in Nevada, you're in the Caesars database and you're in the MGM database and you're probably in OSN. Probably. I would just, going forward, I would just assume, yes, you are in the database. Now, the good news is, if this was 2006 or 2008, it means that you're not at the top of the pile. And the only way they would find you is if they have your name and they go digging through the database, which, they usually are not willing to do. So I wouldn't worry about it much, but I would not use your name. Again, do not use a player's card. We just had an episode of Blackjack Roundtable with one of the players burning down the house is playing 100 hours a month, betting up to 2 hands of 1,000, and he does not use a player's card. This idea that you can't bet big money without a player's card is just false. It's people who are afraid to say no to the pit boss. Just don't do it. As Nancy Reagan taught us all, just say no.
Next question for Richard. Let's say you're playing quickly and go from 1 hand to 2 hands. It's not uncommon for the dealer to miss that second hand, creating a misdeal that will also often be resolved favorably for you, often giving you some type of free roll or opt-out. I don't want this to occur more than once a session to avoid drawing too much attention from the floor and them becoming less friendly and resolving subsequent misdeals. How do you feel about that scenario?
Sounds good to me. I mean, anytime you get a mistake that can work in your favor, seems like a free roll to me. So, I agree. You can very easily get the dealer pissed off at you if it happens more than once. They need to learn to slow down and you can just say to them, look, sometimes I go to 2 hands. So, but yeah, I mean, seems good to me.
All right, next question. It seems that Sunset Station and maybe other stations have thrown a wrinkle into Arnold Snyder's cover play mentioned in Radical Blackjack and discussed on the show of doubling on 12 against a 2 or a 3 for much less. Some genius station has decided that you cannot double down for less than the table minimum. So now when a player is doubling always with an advantage if doubling correctly. Stations is insisting that the player bet more? Duh. I think it'd be giving them too much credit to think they were doing it as a countermeasure to Arnold's cover play. Do you have any thoughts on that, Rich?
Well, first of all, I never tried to double for less than the table minimum. I wasn't aware that there were any casinos that allowed you to do that. But yeah, I'm just surprised. So it doesn't surprise me that if you're doubling for less, you still have to double for the minimum.
Yeah, but yeah, so what I'm guessing is this particular player plays relatively close to the minimum. And so if his big bet is $25 on a $5 table, betting for less with $5 is different percentage-wise than betting for less with $1.
Then if he was betting $100 and betting $5 minimum. Yeah.
So I assume with Arnold that he's betting more than 100 and he's not betting on $100 minimum tables when he does this.
And absolutely, the casino doesn't have a clue about that. I mean, what happens is they find it annoying if you're betting. Let's say you're at a $25 table and you're trying to double for less for $1. I mean, it means they have to call somebody over, and then he has to look, and he's like, oh, is that even allowed? And, it just slows everything down, and it annoys them. So, and it would not surprise me if this rule was just made up by whoever the boss was in the pit at the time. I mean, maybe it came down from on high, but they just find it annoying and don't want to deal with it. I'm sure that's why it happened.
Okay. As of a few months ago, Boyd Properties started accepting slot tickets for buy-ins at the table. Therefore, I've been going by a machine and throwing in a couple bills and playing a few hands to avoid a round number and taking that to the table along with some comment about hoping to do better at the tables. You can also exchange your chips for a ticket when leaving the table, which could be useful in avoiding the cage. But I suspect that there's some limit as to how much you can exchange, especially when uncarded, which I now do. Now, I didn't know any of this. That sounds interesting. I suspect a lot of our listeners would want to take advantage of that.
Yeah, I'm wondering where that is. So they have printers at every table to give you a slot ticket? I mean, it sounds like a good idea from the casino's perspective because maybe the guy will go take his money and stick it in a slot machine. But, this is the first I've heard of this. But I like the idea. I mean, if you're a big player, you can't really show up with a lot. But it would also, if you went in and got some $2,000 tickets ahead of time, and saved them for a couple of days, you would be able to get in much more before hitting the CTR threshold. So,
yeah, put in 1,000 and play two hands to get $9.95 or $10.35 or something. Good. All right. So we're going to call this session quits. Next week we're going to be talking to Michael Shackelford, and then we're going to be coming back and doing one last mailbag show. Since almost all of our answers today have kind of been recommendations, we're not going to do a regular recommendation on this show, unless, Richard, you have one that you're just dying to get out there that you haven't been able to say yet.
Well, something happened this morning that I thought was funny. I started watching a show last night on Netflix called The Night Agent, and I was like, oh, this is really good. I ended up watching like 3 episodes in a row. And then this morning I read Stephen King is saying that this new show on Netflix is just exceptional. And it was the same show. So me and Stephen King would like to recommend a show on Netflix called The Night Agent. And it's the kind of shows I've recommended a lot. It's action, suspense, who's the bad guy. In this particular case, it's a girl who witnessed a murder, and the guy helping her is an FBI agent. So it's that kind of show, but it's well done.
Very good. Thank you, Richard. Thank you to all our listeners for providing the fodder for this show. We're not going to suggest that you send in any more because we already have the questions for our next show. We're not closing out the email account, so I suppose they could add up there in case we ever decide to come back in 4 months and do a spur of the moment show and post it out there. That could be possible. It would without commercials, but we actually might do that. I don't know. We haven't thought that far ahead yet. So thank you, Richard. You and Stephen King. Thank you, Stephen King. Why not? And go out and hit lots of royal flushes, everybody. Good day.